Welcome. This is Final Boss. We're doing another writing tip, and this is a contentious one. Flashbacks. Do you need them? This is a excerpt from the book on writing by Solstein. A very very strong recommend for any of you who are learning writing. But this is the excerpt. Once he asked the master how to best handle flashbacks. Lewis's reply was succinct. He said, "Don't." Ideally, all fiction should seem to be happening now. Nevertheless, if you use it, the flashback must illuminate the present story in an important way. Yes! What's more, the first sentence of a flashback needs to be arresting. Yes. Okay. There's a lot of context here, and especially as someone with like me who's come from a screenwriting background, I am especially leery of flashbacks because they tend to slow down forward momentum, right? Every time you go into a flashback, you're slowing down the present. And that's an absolute thing you should only use in the extreme circumstances, only when you absolutely need it. And what's interesting is one of the best examples of flashback I've ever read was in The Count of Monte Cristo, where this girl's it's been a while since I've read it, so it's a little fuzzy, but I remember being like, this is how you're supposed to do flashbacks, where essentially this girl is being kind of forced to marry this kind of slimy guy, and in order to convince the guy, like this, but like the only person that really cares about this girl, everyone's just like, great, marry this guy for the money. The only person that really cares about this girl, who's gonna kind of get forced into a really unhealthy marriage, is her grandpa, and but he's like, disabled, so he can't really communicate what, like that, hey, like he doesn't really have as much influence over the household to like stop the marriage. So what he does is he delivers his backstory with like the girl on the eve. It's like her wedding night, so it's very high stakes, like she's about to go into a terrible marriage. Very high stakes, this person's cruel and bad, and it's her wedding night, and the grandpa tells the backstory of how he killed this guy's like father, I think. And like he has proof of it, and they're like, you're just doing that to stop the marriage, like you're just being a knucklehead. And he like shows the proof of like, yeah, I dueled this guy and kicked his butt. And that was like an important flashback because it needed to it was affecting the plot, right? Like it was part of a character's goal and action. In order to achieve the goal, the character needed the flashback, right? In order to achieve the present goal of stopping the wedding, this character needed the flashback. And that's exactly how you should be thinking about your flashbacks. There are other tools you can use, obviously, like dream sequences, flashbacks, all these things. Dream sequences you can get away with a little bit more because they kind of can help develop your thematic world. Like I know, like you can do a lot of fun stuff with that. But at the end of the day, my recommendation for flashbacks is to really, really make sure you need them or keep them very short. One of the tricks in prose is you can literally have a one sentence flashback. You don't need to change scene. It can just be treated like a thought. Or in dialogue, it can kind of be clunky, but like, you know, she remembered, like, like she's, paddling down the river trying to avoid a bear or whatever. I'm making this up. And then suddenly she remembered her old paddling instructor, falling over the cliffs on the left, and she realizes she's in the same place. She looks over the cliffs, okay, whatever. That's a silly example, but the point is it you can make it one sentence like that. Oh, she remembered her paddling instructor, blah 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 blah. Treat it like a thought. That's a way to manage flashbacks in prose. If you do need to actually jump scenes into a flashback, I think this note hits all the points, right? Which is make sure you have pop. It has its own little story arc in it. It has its own conflict. Like in the Count of Monte Cristo one, the backstory where the grandpa, fought a duel was packed with drama. He's fighting a duel. He's, getting in a fight. There's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of stakes. And yes, one of the downsides of flashbacks is the grandpa survives, right? Because he's here telling the story. So that does weaken the conflict of the flashback, but at least Alexander Dumas was trying to put it in there. So yes, those are the my kind of thoughts on flashback. I think that quote just sums it up so well. But make sure it's affecting the present action. Make sure that the information that the flashback delivers changes the outcome of the scene or the story. Say that again. The information that the flashback delivers to the present changes the outcome of the present story. And it can adjust the plot. And also, keep it short. You can do sentence flashbacks. You can do one-line flashbacks. That's like a really great tool as well. And yeah, dream sequences, blending flashbacks and dream sequences is okay. I still like, dream sequences are pretty soft on conflict. They're not very conflict heavy. They tend to be very metaphorical. So I'd treat them the same. Make sure that they have an effect in the plot, in the drama. I'm going to read chat real quick because you guys have been writing your thoughts. I like to treat flashbacks with sleeping. It makes the flow better for me. It seems to read more like a dream and less drawing. Yeah, that's true. Flashbacks can be done incredibly well. However, see Scott Lynch's Lies of Locke Lamora. Yes, they can be done really, really well as well. But I will guarantee that because I've read Locke Lamora, and a lot of those where he's thinking back on his past, involve him galvanizing himself. It's a soft reason to use a flashback, but his spoilers, but he lost his crew. Something happened. I won't spoil too much to his thieving crew, and he uses his past and his memories to galvanize himself and go forward. So it is a slight effect on the plot, but again, yeah, I like to trick the reader by having a character go to sleep, but the sentence that lets you know it's not a dream. It comes off like a dream, but it isn't. Yeah, the reader is more likely to accept a flashback if they think it's a dream, in my opinion. Yes, and honestly, at the end of the day, test it out, kind of like what Ironfrost is talking about in chat. If you really need so first off, when you get to a flashback, make sure you need it. Make absolutely sure you need it. And if you do, make sure it affects the present story. And if that's still soft, just test it out. Write a draft with it in there, but be really objective when you revise and say, okay, it's been a month since I wrote this. Is it still necessary? And just make sure from there. Anyways, I hope that's a helpful thoughts on flashbacks. It's a contentious topic, so good luck, everybody. Happy writing.